We're now 2 chapters in, and not only 2 chapters. The first chapter had what 70 pages, and this one had 40. So we are 110 pages into the series. That's like Is it usually a volume is like what like usually 200 pages? I had to go look exact number count, but I think it's somewhere on that. So we're most of the way done with volume one. I would assume for the series. Because I think usually like the first volumes are like 5 to 6 pages, whereas like normally it's like 8 to 9. But we still don't know what the main character's power exactly is. That's one of the more surprising things that I've noticed in the series, just because generally we would see it by chapter one, and then it's like chapter two, and we have what I'm guessing are hints, like nothing concrete, but the main character makes like this, like Percival does this weird handprint, and I was like wondering if it's just brute force, because we have seen that he has like a very strong body when he's like running or showing like durability. He's we see like in the chapter that his speed, not only just that he's fast, but compared he's like outrunning a horse. And not just he's outrunning a horse, he outruns a horse by a lot. It's not like he has like a close like couple minute chase and then he overcomes him. It's like no, the horse gets a good head start and he just blitzes right past this thing. And this is during like he meets some. First off, he gets down the God's Finger, goes down that big plateau-y looking mountain, and I liked that visually a lot. Like I've mentioned before in a chapter one review, I really like the idea of like they're big, high on this mountain peak base, and then on top of that, him climbing down it. I thought there was just a lot of good visuals, him like overlooking the horizon, especially in between when he gets like the first night and there's like a cloud layer above him, and because he's so high up there's a cloud layer below him, but there's like this open gap between them and you can see the stars. That was actually one of my very favorite visuals in Seven Deadly Sins, was when you see I won't go too much just in case maybe for some reason there's somebody who hasn't read Seven Deadly Sins, or maybe they're an anime only and they jump to the series. Either way, um that part where it's like a flashback of Meliodas and Elizabeth versus the Demon King and the Supreme Goddess, and you see they're on this big platform that is between two cloud layers. I always really liked that just from the visual look. It looked like a final boss arena. I thought that was really cool. But like not only that, I just like the idea of being between the two cloud layers and seeing that massive expanse in their vision. And on top of that, like, we had that to a degree, but like instead it was with the night sky and you see all the stars in between. I thought that was really cool. I'm not gonna lie, like I really like that visual, and we actually get a more widespread visual of him like overseeing the landscape. Like the next page, it's a double page, but it's not like a double spread, but it's one of those ones it's made to feel like it's like a mini double spread because it's in the middle. I guess it's still the same kind of concept, just not the full 2 pages. Either way, that one's cool, but I really liked the night sky one just because of like the added idea of it being night when it's happening. I think it just gives it like a little bit of an extra charm to it of that spooky, wondrous night sky. But then you actually got a really funny panel too when Percival like is coming down the mountain and he lands on another one of those birds. And he's like, all right, thanks, man. I won't eat your kind anymore for helping me. And then this bird just like smacks him with his tail feathers, knocks him off. He's like falling. He's like, all right, I am going to go back to eating you guys. Fuck you. And then he just falls down, goes in some bushes, and ends up coming across the fox that we see in the color page of chapter one. And I do like the weird little fox. I'm wondering if it has any way of any type of possible connection to Bond. I know that some people have made that connection, but it's not like there's anything that we know of right now. It's mostly just because there's a fox, and you got some funny panels of Percival trying to like he's just trying to talk to him, but it's like, oh well, this one can't speak, and then he ends up like trying to follow him because he's doesn't know anybody, so he finally, in his mind at least, meets somebody that he can become friends with. But this guy ends up escaping. Also, like, I don't really mind it, but I was I was talking to some people about the series, and I was like, it's weird how, like, same thing with Burn the Witch and this series so far. Like, Burn the Witch's main cast looked like other Bleach characters, like the obvious one, that Noel girl looks like a female Byakuya, but Percival looks with the hat on, his hair down, a little bit like Meliodas. Like it's not the same, but he's got a little bit of a similar. He's got a little bit of a similar face and hairstyle to him, but obviously that's because he's wearing the hat. And nobody said anything about that. But at the same time, like, man, I've had almost 3 years of having to listen to people say that Shiki is just like a Natsun Gray, when it's like already you looking at these characters like very early on, like you look at the 2 chapters, either look at the 2 chapters of the Four Knights of the Apocalypse and say like you can say these guys kind of look alike, but like personality wise, backstory, everything else about him, not even close. Like there's nothing about Percival outside of a little bit of like his hairstyle, and like this like some aspects of his face, like that softer side to him, reminds me of Meliodas, but nothing else. Like nothing else. Meliodas has a completely different personality, completely different like way of doing things, and I actually like Percival like a pretty good amount in these first 2 chapters. I really like that Nakaba is playing on his like childlike innocence to have very interesting interactions to people, like when he's chasing that fox. I like that. I just had to add that thing there because it's like it bothered me, but at the same time, it's like I'm glad that we're that's something that I'm annoyed at the same time that it's like for some reason people only do it to Mishima, but I'm glad that it doesn't look like that's gonna have to be something that the Four Knights of the Apocalypse has to deal with, because it's really dumb. It's like even if you like wanted to argue that these characters look a little bit similar, who cares? Because literally everything else about them is different, and obviously like the bigger things about like the characters, personality, their backstory, origin stuff, story role, and even their powers and stuff. We don't know what Percival's powers are, but I'm guessing it's not going to be full counter. And man, do I hope it's not, because that was one of the things I primarily was not a huge fan about with Meliodas, just from a conceptual standpoint, just because I don't really like his power. So I'm hoping Percival gets like a pretty cool power. It doesn't have to be amazing. I'm guessing it's going to have something to do with the weird fact that when he's shooting arrows, they like go back. So maybe it has something to do with just like maybe controlling trajectories of something. I don't really know. But he meets these like little performer guys, and I guess they're like failed holy knights, and they end up robbing Percival, and then they try and get away on their horse. He just catches immediately right up to him, and they're just like, all right, there's nothing we can do about it. Gives him his stuff back. And I did really like one of the aspects about like the conversation they're having, and because there are a few things I definitely wanted to take note of when it came to this chapter. One of them was the fact that we still don't really know anything about Percival's, like, whatever his magic is, because like it's not vital for a story to know the main character's powers like right off the bat, but it's one of those things that you're just so used to. It's like I want to know. It's a big impatient thing for me whenever we get like a new character of any kind for any series, and I'm like, I want to know what this character's abilities are. Regardless if it's like a series of magic or like mutations, or maybe like even if it's like scientific, like they got tech or something. I always want to know. It's like, well, what is this guy's thing? Like, what exactly is his like way that he's going to be doing? Fighting or support or whatever their role is. But Percival, we don't really see that. I'm guessing that him like shooting the arrows, but them somehow coming back, is going to have something to do with his power, because we see that a couple times in this chapter, and then like we see him like fight this big wolf. But also, so I don't forget it, is one of the things I really wanted to mention was the fact that while they're talking about the Holy Knights, they mentioned like, oh, which country's Holy Knights. So I'm curious to know, one, how many that's really going to entail to. So is there like 10 different like regions or countries? Is Four Knights of the Apocalypse going to use countries outside of Britannia? Like maybe anything like close to adjacent to them, maybe we'll call into play, and not just Britannia, because I think that would be a really cool way to make this series feel like a sequel, but not just in the idea that it's it's in the same world, but really in the same world while expanding upon stuff that we didn't really get in Seven Deadly Sins, because Seven Deadly Sins was very primarily focused on Britannia. And the only other thing I can think of that like outside of that was when we had Nanashi, and obviously he was from Japan, but he like never became relevant. That was one of the bigger mysteries of like what happened with this character, at least to me, for Seven Deadly Sins, because it was weird they introduced him and then nothing really came of it. I'm guessing though with Arthur as the king, unless Nakaba just wants to completely forget that Nanashi exists and just get rid of him, maybe doesn't want to do a Japan related arc, or more content related to that for some reason, then I mean, I guess he doesn't have to have him. He could just say that he, went home or died over the course of, these years and years of, Seven Deadly Sins ending to Four Nights of the Apocalypse starting. But I kind of don't want that to be the case. I thought he was really cool, and it'll really bum me out if his character is just, long since forgotten kind of style. But like the other Magic Knights, not Black Clover, the other Holy Knights, like I said, I want to know how many there are and how many countries are going to come into play during this series. That's one of the things I am very intrigued with. The other thing, I mean, I can just kind of like rush through when they're talking about like this wolf, and they're like, oh, why do they need Holy Knights to defeat a wolf? It's a pretty big wolf. It's like mouth can like fit over like a small house, and probably like standing up. It's maybe, I'm just looking at the panel right now. It's probably like 30 feet tall, maybe plus, and probably like a similar like length from like head to like tail or something. Probably maybe a little bit bigger. But you see Percival, he's got like an arrow. He shoots it, and the arrows turn around. That's again like the thing I'm wondering about, like his power. What exactly is his ability going to be in this? If like, is it a sign with his arrows, or is it maybe just a sign that he's like just a bad archer? Because the wolf even goes to try and attack, and then Percival stops it with one hand, like casually. And we've seen that he's very durable, and like, he's got a very powerful body. We haven't seen to the full extent, but when he goes to smack this wolf, we see, I don't know if it's supposed to be just his hand, or if it's like some form of like thrust attack shape, kind of like when you do like an air slash with a sword, and it just looks like this big crescent razor or something. I mean, it's not like they have to send out an energy tag. It literally just be razor wind. Maybe that's the same thing of what's going on with like this handprint, or if it's literally just he's hitting this dude really hard, and maybe it was like just the way that it was drawn. Either way, like I'm curious to know about exactly what's gonna like go down with like this main character's powers, and how like stuff like this is gonna come into play. Because I do think that what a main character's abilities are is important to a degree, just because you're going to be seeing the main character so much. I think they have to have one that's cool to see implemented and utilized and whatnot. But at the end of the chapter, like they're happy to him for helping out. You see that same mark that was on the bird in chapter 1 disappear, and then I would assume this guy is the same one that sent the bird over to God's finger. It's like this dude in this knight outfit. I don't know if this was somebody that that seeing this suit is like a callback to Seven Deadly Sins. Like I don't know every single character by Seven Deadly Sins, but just by like the suit of their armor. Maybe this is like somebody that's a returning character. I don't know. But the other thing besides the other countries having Holy Knights that I really wanted to take note of was behind this guy when he's talking when they're prepping up for this this night dude. You see that through the necklace, like the pendant, or at least the gem on that fox's collar. I guess rather easier to say the necklace makes way more sense. You see Percival, and then the guy's like, oh, they defeated my familiar, time for the next one. And so he's going to be sending out something better and, doing his thing of this guy, I'm guessing, being the first little antagonist within the series. I doubt this will be a bigger character, but we'll see. But behind him, that was really interesting, is the stained glass windows. I'm guessing he's in some form of church or base or whatever. But it's Arthur, and he's holding what looks to be Excalibur, or, I don't think that's it. No. Is that Excalibur? I'm looking at the cross guard. I'm trying to remember if that's the right one with like that weird crescent shape. But I remember Excalibur end up being like really simple, like with that, but with like the little black and white fluttering like design coming off it, kind of like the rock from Magi. But then you also see Merlin in the picture as well, and even Kath like above him. So I just thought that was really interesting. I'm wondering if it's literally just going to be like, oh yeah, this, we're going to see aspects of Arthur's like story in some of these stained glass windows. But maybe we'll end up seeing some scenes of Arthur that haven't happened, or well, not that haven't happened, that we don't know about, because obviously it's been years since the start or the end of Seven Deadly Sins and the start of this series. But we'll see. Either way, I like the second chapter. The only thing I would really say that I'm hoping the series doesn't drag its feet on, one is finding out the main character's abilities, and then meeting some of the other main cast. Like, I don't think we need to have every other main cast immediately, but I'm hoping within maybe in chapter 3 we meet somebody who's going to be in the main cast, whether it's the main character's rival, it's somebody that Percival can battle against and constantly they have like a drive to overtake, you know what I mean? Just rivalry. It doesn't have to be too crazy. It could literally just be at the core of things, like them competing. And then the other thing I would be perfectly fine with is a female lead. I don't know. Either's fine in that. Like, we've got the little fox guy, and he's, I'm assuming, going to be the mascot of the series. But I would really like to see just, some additional character instead of just Percival, because I liked what was shown in this chapter, but I'm like, I want to know what the other characters are also going to be like, and where the series is kind of going to stack up to. Anyway, other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this series. Tell me like how your thoughts are of the second chapter. I thought it was pretty good. Like, nothing crazy so far, like outside of the art. But I do think that the main character is likable. I think Percival's pretty fair so far, and that's one of the things obviously really important is like first impressions of the main character. And I think he's pretty fair. I do like his big cloak, and I like that how much it's already kind of screwed him over after putting on like tripping on it, getting arrows stuck in it and stuff. I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs the video, from the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Further than that, appreciate everybody's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.